So hello, good morning everyone. So I'll be taking your disaster management classes. So see, there are many schools of thought how to approach towards the disaster management. The thing is, first let's understand what is the importance of this disaster management. See, the amount of the marks which comes in the disaster management. See, sometimes it is 10 marks question, like it happened in 2025, and sometimes it will range up to 25 marks also, right? So mostly, okay, it is around, say, on an average, it is around to say 20 marks over the years, but mostly it has been 25 marks they have been asking from disaster management. But this is the most ignored subject. So because the people will be focusing a lot, okay, say this comes in the paper 3, GS paper 3. This is part of GS paper 3. Now people will focus a lot, okay, on economy. Okay, people think that the GS paper 3 belongs to economy only. But okay, the number of questions which come from the economy core are hardly 4 questions. So if you are removing the questions related to the supply chain management, agriculture, because agriculture is also kind of geography. So if you are leaving this aside, hardcore economy questions are just 3 to 4, 3 I would say. And for that you'll be focusing a lot, and in the subject like disaster management, okay, you'll not focus at all. So this is where you'll be losing the marks. And if you do the PYQ analysis, previous year question analysis, so it will become very easy for you to speculate what kind of questions are going to come. So that's why for any subject, okay, once you have a fair understanding, okay, of the subject, you should be doing a PYQ analysis. Since disaster management is not a stand-alone subject, it draws a lot of aspects from geography. It draws a lot of aspects from administration. It will be drawing a lot of aspects from economy. In fact, it will be drawing a lot of aspects from society also. So it is basically the mixture of all this. So I hope that you have an understanding of all this. So that's why I'm discussing the PYQs here. So since it is carrying a lot of weightage, so you should not be ignoring this subject at all. And many of the people don't know what to study here. What to study. So I have seen a lot of notes, which come in the market. They simply discuss a little bit of earthquakes, a little bit of flooding, a little bit of cyclone, and these aspects. But you have to link, okay, the disaster with the before and after aspects. You have to link this with the administration. So what the administration is doing, okay, during and after a disaster. Are the finances sufficient or not? Okay, this also you have to discuss. How the society is responding to it or reacting to it. So you have to discuss all these aspects. So that's why the interlinking of all these things become a very important factor while writing the answers in disaster management. So these all things you have to keep in mind. So now let's go through the previous year questions. So by this you will understand how many marks are coming from the disaster management, and more importantly you will understand what all things you should be focusing while studying the disaster management. So the notes which I'll be giving to you will be more than sufficient. In fact, even if you solve all the PYQs, it will be more than sufficient for the disaster management. So let's analyze the previous year questions. Now let's see here. So let's see the first question here. The seawater intrusion in the coastal aquifers is a major concern in India. What are the causes of seawater intrusion and what are the remedial measures? See, you will see a pattern. I will make you understand the pattern. So understanding pattern is very important. Okay. So what is the topic here? The topic, so I would say this is a disaster. What is the disaster which they have focused? Okay. So seawater intrusion. The seawater intrusion is the focus area or a disaster. Now they have been specific, the UPSC has been specific here. They're focusing the seawater intrusion in the coastal aquifers. You also need to understand what is an aquifer here. So aquifer is the underground sedimentary or igneous rock in which the water is stored. Basically, it is a rock in which the water is being stored. Now, seawater intrusion can happen from above. It can happen from below also. Above means how? If there is a storm surge, if there is a cyclone, if there is excessive high tide, if there is tidal bore. So, from the ground surface, the seawater can encroach onto the land. So this is also called as seawater intrusion. But they're not focusing on all these things. So while answering, it should be very specific. It should be hitting the core. It should not discuss anything else except which has been asked in the question. So they are asking about, so basically I'll make you understand this. Say this is the land, okay, and this is the water. So the water can come from here, okay. This is also seawater intrusion, and this is also seawater intrusion. So one is coming above the surface, one is coming below the surface. Now, inside this, here, you'll be having water stored in rocks. Water stored in the rocks. And these are called as the aquifers. Now, many of my students, when I discussed after the exam, they said also I've discussed, okay, वो बोलते हैं कि सर, okay, हमने भूल गया सर, एग्जामिनेशन में इतना ध्यान नहीं दिया, okay, हमने सोचा कि सर सी वाटर इंट्रूजन है, okay, स्पेसिफिकली हमने, okay, what aquifers पे ध्यान नहीं दिया. They say such kind of things. That's why whenever the question comes in front of you, you should be very vigilant. You should exactly understand what has been asked in the examination. And only based on that, okay, you should be further answering your question. So you should focus on this part and not the above part. So this is a disaster. Now, across the various questions, you see a pattern. So hello, good morning everyone. Okay, today we'll be starting with disaster management. So subject is the disaster management. So if you look at the PYQ analysis, if you look at the previous year questions, so the amount of the marks which have come from the subject, So at least 10 marks have come, and at max it has gone to 30 marks. 30 marks. But on an average, it always remains around 20 marks. And usually it is one 10 marker and one 15 marker. So this is usual. So usual is 25 marks. Means every year almost 2 questions are being asked. So this is the importance of the subject. So why I'm telling you this importance? Because so before reading any subject, okay, you should understand its importance, because then only you'll get to know how much time you should be spending on the subject. So for example, okay, I'll tell you, okay, it is not to defame any subject, but okay, for example, I'm telling you. Say in the mains examination I'm talking about. The mains, we talk about GS paper 1. GS paper 1. There are 3 subjects which come in this examination. One is, okay, the entire, okay, history and its, surrounding subjects. History, society, geography. So the weightage of the geography here around, okay, on an average it is 110 marks. The society will be around, okay, 70 to 80, and history is around 70 to 80 marks. So total it amounts to 250 marks. Right? Now here, for history, you have to read ancient, medieval, modern, art and culture, post-independence India, world history, etc. If you are able to get a concise note of all these, that would be great. But again, okay, making all these things concise, okay, is also very difficult. And what people do is they focus a lot on this and they ignore society. Then देखते हैं society में क्या पूछता है, okay, women एक पूछता है, globalization एक पूछता है, poverty related एक पूछता है. So they think like that, and they completely ignore society, or they'll be focusing less on society. And geography also people ignore, especially if you're scared of a subject like geography, that also you ignore. Now, before mains, only if you understand, okay, how much weightage each subject has, then only you'll understand how much to focus, okay, how much time you should be giving on each subject. So that's why I'm telling you, the disaster management, okay, is a very important aspect here, because the questions which are coming from here is high. And this is part of the GS paper 3. So in GS paper 3 is widely known as economy paper. But not only economy, you have all the other subjects here. So obviously economy will also come here. Ecology will also come here. Science and tech will also come here. Disaster management will also come. So all these aspects also, okay. So all these aspects, also security will also come here. So here the disaster management, okay, will be carrying around like on an average 25 marks. And people often here ignore S&T and they ignore disaster management also. So people think that we cannot target the questions from these 2 areas. So economy तो standard subject है, चलो okay इसको पढ़ लेंगे, okay. So they will be reading all the things, you know, which I have been taught them in the class, you know, कोई textbook, reference textbook है, उसको भी पढ़ लेंगे. And they think that, you know, ये सब पढ़ लेंगे तो exam में question आ जाएगा. But it won't be the case. So that's why it is very important to understand the PYQs. Only when you analyze the PYQs, you will understand the trend here. So that's why firstly I'll be focusing on PYQs. So since that I have explained the importance of the importance of disaster management here, now let's first understand the PYQs. Let's focus on the PYQs. Then you'll understand what all things you should be focusing. Okay. Now this is a 2025 question. So people can call it as a question from ecology environment. But since no question has been asked, okay, from disaster management, I have put this question under disaster management, because you know there can be a conflict regarding this question. Some people may argue that this is a question from ecology environment, but you know I would say this is a question from disaster management. Now only when you analyze the questions, you'll see a pattern here. So I will help you understand the pattern here. Because once you understand the pattern scientifically, you will be able to speculate what kind of questions are going to come. So for simplicity, I'm saying, now if somebody is asking me outrightly, okay, if I have to answer in say 2 sentences, what kind of questions are going to come in disaster management? Okay, I would say there are only 3 areas from which the UPSC will ask questions. The first area from where the UPSC will be asking question, it will focus on some disaster. And second area from where the questions will be asked is the loss. This can be national or international. At the international level, we cannot say that you know these are laws. We can say some conventions, etc. Because at the international level, okay, you cannot make a law, because okay, if a law has to be made, the law has to be obliged. And who will implement this law at the international level? Because there is no government at the international level. So we'll be calling them as convention. And third area, from where the questions will be asked, okay, it is, these are related to the disaster management cycle. So these are the only areas from where the questions will be asked. And if you're not reading these, then your preparation is all useless. So for that, okay, finally I'll be coming here only. But how I have derived this formula, I'll explain it through the previous year questions. Now let's see the pattern here. Now, the disaster which they are focused here is the seawater intrusion. This is the disaster which they are focused. And whenever they are asking about disaster, they'll be obviously asking the causes, and they will also ask the remedies. So these 2 things also they will focus. Why? Why the pattern of the question is like this? Because, see, you become an administrator or you become a policy maker. So as an administrator means the people who will be implementing the policies, okay? Or if you're policy making, both of these people, okay, even if you're sitting in the secretariat level or you're sitting in the directorate level, okay, these are the 2 aspects of the administration. So both of these people, okay, should first identify what are the underlying causes, and once you identify the underlying causes, you should also talk about the remedies. That means as a administrator, you're expected to know the remedies, that is solution. आपको solution भी देना पड़ेगा इसके लिए. So that's why you will see this pattern all across the question. Now, many people, okay, while you write the answers also, often you get confused. What should be the answer? What should be the structure of the answer? So step yourself, okay, in the shoes of an administrator or a district collector. So जब भी आप आंसर लिखते हो, अपने आप को आप सोचो कि आप एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट मैजिस्ट्रेट हो और पॉलिसी मेकर हो. Then आप क्या करोगे? So whenever you have a problem across you, what will you do? So obviously your intention should be to solve the problem. For solving the problem, you should understand what are the underlying causes for it. And then you should also suggest the remedies. You have to be a problem solver there, right? So this can be the pattern. Because many of my students nowadays, they come to me and say that, sir, okay, if you're writing about the causes, okay, it can become negative, my marks can be deducted. So आजकल ना people बहुत सारा binary में सोचते हैं. So positive, negative, okay, sir, if I criticize something, I'll be called as anti-national, and then, okay, people come, okay, with all these sorts of things. So think yourself as an administrator and be a problem solver. And to solve the problem, you have to identify the problem. So this is also the reason why the UPSC is asking such kind of questions here. So now again, you have to be specific here. The seawater intrusion. Now they are saying coastal aquifers. This is a keyword here. Say this is the land. So this is only land, and in blue you have water here. So this is all water. Now this water can come from above. This water can come from, penetrate from below. This is also called as intrusion. This is also called as intrusion. So this year, okay, many of my students have written the mains, when I ask them, भाई इसका आंसर क्या लिखा है? सर हमने तो पूरा लिख दिया सर, सी वाटर कैसे ऊपर से आता है, जब भी स्टॉर्म सर्ज आता है तो वाटर कैसे लैंड के ऊपर आता है. सर जब भी साइक्लोन आता है कैसे वाटर ऊपर आ जाता है. ओके सर, जब भी सर हाई टाइड होती है अचानक से, जब भी वाटर इंट्रूड कैसे होता है. सर जब भी सर विंड स्पीड ज़्यादा होता है वाटर कैसे ऊपर आ जाता है. सर हमने तो पूरा लिख के आया सर. भाई क्वेश्चन को तो ध्यान से देख लो. सो उन लोगों ने पूछा है एक्विफर. So what is an aquifer? So aquifer is inside the ground. This is the aquifer. This is aquifer. It's basically a rock which has a capacity to store the water. So how the water is coming inside the aquifer, okay, on that you have to focus. Of course it can come from here also, but ultimately it had to penetrate below. So your major part of the discussion should be this penetration, this one. Of course this can also come, but again, okay, the water has to, seawater has to come here and then it has to percolate below. This process is called as percolation, and that will take a good amount of time. So that's why your answer has to be very specific. So this is what the question is all about, right? So every question, okay, whenever you get a question, you have to split the question or break the question. So every question will be having either 2 parts, 3 parts, or maximum 4 parts. So you have to identify all these parts and then you have to answer. Okay, so you understood the pattern here? So the pattern is a disaster, causes, and okay, the remedies here. Now let's see the next question here. So I told these 3 areas. Okay, the question which has been asked in 25 is related to disaster. Now let's understand the question which has come in 24. So, to which category it belongs? See, what is disaster resilience? How it is determined? So this is a keyword, disaster resilience. How it is determined? Describe various elements of resilience framework. Also mention the global targets of Sendai framework of DRR, disaster risk reduction. So this question has clubbed two questions, means two broad areas which I have discussed previously. See, the first three, so these are related to the disaster management cycle, and obviously this is about the Sendai framework. So two areas. So if you have to talk peripherally or superficially, what is disaster resilience? So disaster resilience is, so when a next disaster is going to come, say अगली बार earthquake आ रहा है, अगली बार cyclone आ रहा है, और अगली बार urban floods आ रहा है, how ready you are, or how strong you are, how prepared you are to face that disaster. So it is the disaster resilience. Okay. So see, this question has 4 parts here. So this is very factual, but the first 3 parts require a lot of articulation here. So you should be bringing in various case studies to answer the first 3 parts. So if you want to understand how to answer such kind of questions, of course you can read the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, that also you can read. But also regarding these things, regarding the disaster management cycle, if you want to understand very well, then there is one ARC report, so Administrative Reforms Commission. There is a report on crisis management. So these ARC reports are evergreen because see, even if you look at the say National Police Commission report 1903-1904, even the recommendations which have been made in that report are relevant even today after 120-125 years. Why? Because the recommendations which have been made have never been followed for a very long time. And whenever these seasoned bureaucrats, when they come up with the recommendations, they are very futuristic in nature. So they will not be just giving this very temporary remedies, but also they will be highly futuristic. For example, recently the pollution in Yamuna has happened. Now what the government has done in a haphazard manner, it has removed the foam by spraying some chemicals. So that is a very temporary thing. But if you want to permanently remove the pollution from river Yamuna, there's so many things which have to be done. Of course it is not our area to discuss. So what I'm saying is the ARC reports are highly futuristic. So don't think that, sir, the ARC reports have come way back in 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sir, it has been around 20 years. So are those recommendations even valid today? I'm saying they'll be valid even for next 50 or 100 years. So that's why I recommend you to read the ARC reports. And this report on crisis management is very small. You can go through it. Okay. So this is the next area. From where the question is asked. Next, this is one question from 24. So this is 250 words. It is 15 marks. Okay. Now the next question, if you see, the question is on, see, in 24, again 250 words. So they have asked for 30 marks here. So Let's analyze the next question here. So, urban floods is an emerging climate-induced disaster. Of course. So, this statement you can use in the introduction. In fact, justify the statement, your introduction will be done. Okay. Again, I told you the pattern. So they will give a disaster and they will ask you the causes. Here, they're talking about two case studies. Mention the features of two such major floods in the last 2 decades. Okay. So take two case studies here. So while I will be discussing the notes, I will be discussing Bangalore, Hyderabad. Bangalore and Hyderabad. So these can be good case studies. Means why the urban floods are being caused repeatedly. So it can be due to the real estate encroachment into the lakes, into the free zones, into the parks, which were earlier acting as a shock absorbers or which were earlier acting as a buffers. It can be also due to the people settling in the margins of the ecosystem. See, where do the poor people live when they come to the urban area? Obviously, they cannot afford high rent in the urban areas. So they will settle at the margins of the ecosystem. Okay? So either they will go and settle near the forest area if there is any forest area, or if they will go and settle near the drainages which are in the cities. That's a margin of ecosystem. If there is a river like a Musi is there, for example, okay, or you have in Bangalore, you have this Arkavatis tributary. So people will go and settle there. Or people will be settling near the lakes, in the periphery of the lakes. So these are called as the margins of the ecosystem. So the people settling in the margins of the ecosystem, or it can be due to adherence to the building codes, means where the buildings have to be built, what should be the density, how many stories can be built there, so such kind of things. So regarding Bangalore and Hyderabad, so we'll discuss which all lakes have been encroached into, what is the river, what is the river flood prone area, is the river flood zonation has been followed or not. Okay. So if we take these two case studies, because recently the newspapers only, these things are gone, because so whenever the city is being flooded, for next 4 to 5 days, a lot of articles come in the Hindu. So when you are reading the newspapers, if you follow such articles, then your answer is done. You can also come up with the other case studies of other cities, but again more objectively these two cities have been studied, and along with the names also. And since because many people are scared to write, for example, if you want to write Delhi, so some people will become skeptical, sir, can we write this, write that, because sir, sarkar kya bolegi, bhai idhar to सेंटर की सरकार नहीं है, तो ये दोनों सिटीज का आप लिख सकते हो आराम से, नो इश्यूज एट ऑल. So next, describe the policies and frameworks in India that aim at tracking such floods. Basically here they are talking about the remedies. Okay. So basically when you do the case studies, you'll understand the causes. Okay. So these causes become very specific. Right. Okay, here, since they're asked about the features, you can discuss causes and consequences also. Means how important are these cities to India, maybe to the IT sector, or next quaternary sector or high-tech sector, how these cities are very important and what are the consequences. So how much economy they support, etc. Okay. You can also take the case study of Mumbai. But the case studies related to Mumbai have become quite old. There is no new case study, since these two are new emerging cities. Okay, so Mumbai is actually an island. It's a set of 7 islands on which the city is being built. So मुंबई सिटी है ही खुद समंदर में. अब समंदर में जाके शहर बसाओगे, ओके, पूरा 2-3 करोड़ का पॉपुलेशन को बसाओगे, एंड आप समंदर के अंदर रह के अगर आप कंप्लेन कर रहे हो कि बाढ़ आ रही है, आपकी प्रॉब्लम है. But if you look at this, it is Bangalore, okay, it's at the elevation of 920 meters. Hyderabad is at elevations around 650 meters. So ये तो काफ़ी height पे है, okay, but still these cities get flooded. So this is completely due to human mismanagement. So that's why this can be two good case studies and which are objectively analyzed also. So whenever you're talking about the remedies, either you can talk about the policies and framework, okay, of the government, or you can talk in general also. Say for example, आपको पता नहीं है policies and framework, okay, in India that aim at tracking such floods. आपको specifically पता नहीं है, okay, but okay, you should be knowing, okay, 2-3 government bodies, so which can probably give such kind of policies and framework, right? आप वाटर सेंट्रल वाटर कमीशन को कोट कर दो, या आप NDMA को कोट कर, अब कुछ नहीं आता है तो NDMA को कोट कर दो, नेशनल डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट अथॉरिटी. So give those headings, okay, and then below that you can write the remedies. Okay, in the previous question, okay, they didn't ask about any body, or they didn't ask about government of India or anything, लेकिन they are asking you the remedies there. So वहाँ पे भी आप bodies को कोट कर दो. So don't think that मुझे specifics, okay, यहाँ पे पता नहीं है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया में क्या बोला है, लेकिन okay, आपको अगर okay, causes पता है तो थोड़ा बहुत आप सेंसिबल इंसान हो तो आपको रेमेडीज भी पता होगा. सो आप स्मार्टली ऐसा कोट कर सकते हो. सो इवन इफ यू आर हैविंग ओके लिमिटेड नॉलेज, लिमिटेड मतलब इतना भी लिमिटेड नहीं, ओके, थोड़ा बहुत नॉलेज है, लेकिन आप आर्टिकुलेटिव हो तब अच्छे से अच्छे आंसर लिख सकते हो. लेकिन द कन्वर्स इज नॉट ट्रू, रिवर्स इज नॉट ट्रू. So you have mugged up all the framework which has been given by government of India, etc., but you don't know how to articulate very well, then you won't be able to write a good answer. And वैसे आप कितना सारा okay आप mug up करोगे वो difficult हो जाएगा. इसलिए आपको आंसर को बहुत स्मार्टली मैनेज करना होगा. For that you need to learn articulation. Okay, it is regarding this question. So you found a pattern here, same as the previous one. Okay. Now let's enter into 23 here. Okay. Let's see this question. So what is a disaster here? So disaster here is dam failure. Okay, so dam failures are always catastrophic, especially on the downstream side, resulting in colossal loss to life and property. So the dam failures are always catastrophic. This can be your intro. Justify the statement. So justifying the statement will become your intro, okay? And how, okay, it is resulting in colossal loss. So after the intro, say intro is say like this, 4 to 5 lines. So below that you can give a side heading, okay, loss to property and life. Mention that, loss to property and life, and then write 2-3 sentences here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Further justify it, because you won't be able to justify this entire statement in one single paragraph. That's why you can choose these two. So this is part of the body. Next, so why I am mentioning So you must be thinking that, sir, आपने तो disaster management पढ़ा ही नहीं है, आप questions discuss कर रहे हो. See, ये सब चीज़ें एक ही सब्जेक्ट का पार्ट नहीं है. So the disaster management will be drawing a lot of intrigues from geography, economy, administration, and also society. So it is a culmination of all these subjects. So I'm assuming that you know bit of all these things. Okay, so that's why I'm discussing the questions first. And moreover, only if you discuss the questions, you will understand further what will be asked in examination, and we can focus our study in that area only. So instead of reading everything tail to head, and then if nothing comes in the examination from there, it will be all useless. So that's why you should always know the area of study, because the syllabus of UPSC is the ocean. आप पूरा ocean को तो target नहीं कर सकते हो ना. And next, more importantly, there is something called as Pareto optimality, also called as 80-20 rule है. Means अगर 100% चीजें है, आप 100% को target नहीं कर सकते हो. At least be perfect. Okay, increase your perfection in 80%, and 20% छोड़ दो, no problem, because that 80% is going to come in the examination more frequently. उसी को आप टारगेट करते रहो, एंड उसी में आप परफेक्शन लेके आओ. एंड आपको मार्क्स कितने लेके आना है? 20% मार्क्स ही लेके आना है. सो दैट्स व्हाई द पीपल ऑफन फॉलो दिस पैरेटो ऑप्टिमलिटी. ये यूपीएससी में नहीं, सारे बिजनेस स्ट्रैटेजीज में भी ये फॉलो करते हैं. सो दैट्स व्हाई आई एम मेकिंग यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट यू शुड बी फोकसिंग ऑन. सो फर्स्टली disaster, again see pattern, you will see causes, and give 2 examples of large dam failures. So since it is a 10 marker, they are not asking you to write the remedies here. So एक disaster के बारे में पूछा, they out about causes. You can take 2 case studies here. 2 case studies. And then remedies is not asked, but again you can always provide the remedies here. You can always provide the solutions, because as an administrator you should have to be a problem solver. Now there is no body here, or there is no organization, a government भी खुद कभी यहाँ के dam failures का remedies नहीं देते, because the government is always in the forefront to construct the dam. अभी हम ये नहीं बोल सकते कि dam construct नहीं करना चाहिए ना, but there can be some remedies over here, right? So many of the developed countries are now dismantling the dams. So why this question has been asked in 24? Because during this year a lot of developed countries, USA started dismantling its dams, and because of a cyclone in Libya, a city called as Derna has been flooded, because डैम में पूरा भारी पानी भर गया था, डैम ब्रेक हो गया, सिटी पूरा फ्लड हो गया नीचे. The dam was meant to supply water to the Derna city, लेकिन that itself has become a disaster. So whenever the UPSC is asking questions, there is some background of the current affairs as well. So that also you have to keep in mind. Pattern, again you will see some catastrophe or disaster, causes and remedies. Remedies, though it is not asked, but you have to write a few. Right? Now let's see next. Next question. See, this is a 15 marker. Acha. So 23 there is only one question. It's only for 10 marks. So it has been there are very less instances where only one question is being asked. Now 22. So there are Two questions over here. One question, this is second question. So one is for 10 marks, other is for 15 marks. So mechanism, they're asking about the mechanism of cloudburst. Of course, you take any disaster management textbook or any notes which is available in the market, they would have hardly discussed the mechanism before this question has come, okay, in the exam. उसके बाद में ऐड किया तो किया होगा, लेकिन उसके पहले तो डिस्कस नहीं किया होगा. So this is hardcore geography. In fact, geography, GSB peripherally पढ़ते हो, तब भी आप a mechanism discuss नहीं करोगे. So this question has been asked in 2022 because there have been a lot of cloudburst incidents during that year. So that's why they have focused on it. So again, you will see the same pattern here. So you will see a disaster. Okay. Here they have focused on the mechanism. Okay. An occurrence of cloudburst in the context of Indian subcontinent. So discuss two recent examples. Again, they are asking about two case studies. Means in case studies, you have to discuss the causes also. Also, you can discuss the consequences. Okay. Again, you see the same pattern here. Some disaster and then, okay, causes. Next, you see causes and effects of coastal erosion. Again, some disaster. Causes, this time they asked the consequence also. Now, what are the available coastal management techniques for combating the hazard? Now they are asking about remedies or solutions. Solutions or remedies. So all I am saying is you will see the same pattern everywhere. Coastal erosion, causes, solutions or remedies. Now, okay, while discussing here, they didn't ask, which body is recommending this, etc. But again, you can always, quote certain body according to CRZ rule, coastal zone regulation management rules. So, since you see, if you are prepared for, if you have cleared the prelims, obviously, okay, you might be knowing some bodies. तो थोड़ा बहुत कोई बॉडी मैच होता है उसका नाम लिख दो अगर आपको स्पेसिफिकली नहीं पता है. ओके. नाउ नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. ओके. सो 2021 विल फोकस. So 15 marks, 10 marks again. Okay. You have 25 marks here. See, causes. Okay, again one more disaster here. Causes. Again remedies or solutions again. See. Mention the important components of national landslide risk management strategy. Here they have specifically asked you, okay, asking you a particular body what it is suggesting. See, आपको पता नहीं है कौन सा, say when you go to the examination, obviously you must not have read, okay, that national land risk management strategy क्या आपको पता नहीं है. लेकिन आपको अगर चीज़ें पता है जेनरिकली, ओके, क्या क्या करना चाहिए, बिकॉज हर एक प्रॉब्लम के लिए कुछ जेनरिक सॉल्यूशंस भी होते हैं. So you can write that and mention this name. Say, you might not be getting 100% marks, okay, for not writing the exact solutions which have been written, said by National Landslide Risk Management Strategy. लेकिन आपको okay थोड़ा बहुत तो पता होगा. So आपको okay at least average marks तो मिलेंगे. So next is discuss about the vulnerability of India to earthquake related hazards. So again one more disaster. So how India is vulnerable. So give examples including the silent features of major disasters caused by the earthquakes. So again here they are focusing on consequences Because here they haven't asked specifically about the cause, because the causes of the earthquakes अभी तक किसी को कुछ नहीं पता. Of course, the plate tectonic movement is there, but why that plate is moving, etc. अपने हाथ में कुछ नहीं है, उसको कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Okay, so that's why they haven't asked what are the causes of the earthquakes. और पूरा geographical हो जाएगा फिर. So that will not be part of the disaster management. So that's why they haven't asked this. So give examples including the salient features of major disasters caused by the earthquakes. Okay, so you can pick up 2-3 case studies. Okay, in different parts of India, including the last 3 decades. So regarding the earthquakes, we'll be doing various case studies here. So the last major one, okay, in India or around India, okay, being the Kathmandu earthquake. This happened in 2015, and before that, okay, if you want to discuss, you can discuss Bhuj earthquake, and before that, if you want to discuss one more earthquake, you can discuss Latur earthquake, or we can also discuss Kashmir earthquake. So some major ones you can discuss 2-3 case studies. Okay, and here also, okay, you should be talking about the solutions here, because silent features. Okay, since they're asking about silent features, and since you have to solve the problems also, okay, you can come up with some solutions as well. Okay, so this is the question in 2021. So this 2020, okay, there is only one question, 15 marker. Discuss the recent measures initiated in disaster management by Government of India from the earlier reactive approach. This is also the COVID year, right? So that's why they have focused on what can be the measures which can be taken. See here they're talking about, see, एक तो होता है reactive approach, means once a disaster strikes your area, you will be reacting to it. Means you will not even anticipate that disasters will come. You will not be prepared for disaster. You will not be conducting any mitigation measures. Simply you will react. Okay. So earlier our approach towards disaster management was completely reactive in nature. Now from that reactive approach, the government has become very active. So some changes have taken place. Okay, that's why this question has been asked. So again, this is part of the law. In recent laws, which have been changed by the Government of India, or some international convention has come, or some at the international level, some meeting has taken place in the disaster management area. So if some new things have been signed over there, if some new framework has been signed over there, so they'll be focusing on that. So next question is from 2019. Again, there are 2 questions here, so I will discuss these 2. So vulnerability is an essential element for defining disaster impacts and its threat to the people. How and in what ways can vulnerability to disaster can be characterized? So discuss different types of vulnerability with reference to disasters. This is kind of philosophical question, and this question will also become part of your disaster management cycle. Disaster management cycle. So since I have been talking about this cycle a lot, I will discuss what is cycle. See, so during a disaster, what we'll do? Post disaster, what we'll do? And again, pre-disaster, what we'll be doing? So this is part of disaster management cycle. Now, before the disaster comes, before the disaster strikes you, if you're not prepared enough, means if there is no enough early warning, if you haven't done mitigation, say बाढ़ आ रहा है आपको पता है लेकिन आपने embankment नहीं डाला, or you know that urban floods are going to come, you haven't cleared the storm water drainages ऐसे clog पड़ा है, मतलब ऐसे बट भर के है, उसमें पूरा कचरा प्लास्टिक सब कुछ है. So then you'll become more vulnerable. So what you should be doing here? So this is also part of disaster management cycle. So before this also there was one question regarding resilience and Sendai framework. It also talks about the same thing. So how resilient you will be, how strong you will be before a disaster and after disaster. It all depends upon your preparation. Now, I'll tell you a very good example of vulnerability is, see, there's a crisis, okay, and there's a disaster. So between the crisis and a disaster, there is this vulnerability. So crisis into vulnerability becomes disaster. I'll tell you a very small example. Say crisis आपके लाइफ में आप एग्जाम में फेल हो गए. So एग्जाम में फेल हो गए तो आप सुसाइड तो नहीं करोगे ना. It depends upon your vulnerability. So इस साल एग्जाम में फेल हो गए, प्री में फेल हो गए, नो प्रॉब्लम. आपके पास बहुत सारा टाइम है. So यूटिलाइज दिस टाइम. आपके पास ऑलमोस्ट 1 ईयर बचा है नेक्स्ट प्रीलिम्स के लिए. ओके, सो खस के पढ़ो एंड देन एग्जाम निकालो आप नेक्स्ट टाइम के लिए. सो यू शुड नॉट बिकम वल्नरेबल. सो व्हेन यू बिकम वल्नरेबल, द डिजास्टर विल बी वेरी हाई. से बारिश आने वाला है, आपके स्ट्रॉन्ग वाटर ड्राइनेज पूरा फील्ड है, उसमें प्लास्टिक भरा है, मिट्टी भरा है, आपने मॉनसून से पहले नहीं निकाला. ऑब्वियसली भैया आप डूबोगे फ्लड में. So that is what vulnerability is. So again we'll discuss a lot about this. So this is also part of disaster management cycle. Okay. The next question you see. So disaster preparedness is the first step in any disaster management process. Explain how hazard zonation mapping will help disaster mitigation in case of the landslides. So specifically they are focused on the landslides. Again the first part of the question is almost this only. So disaster preparedness is the first step in the disaster management process. So preparedness, again the first part is from disaster management cycle, and second part, okay, they specifically focused on the landslide. So here they are talking about hazard zonation mapping. Means for example, okay, you have settled in some part of the city. You should know so which part of the city is more vulnerable to landslide, which part is less vulnerable. आप कौन से स्लोप पे से पहाड़ी इलाका में हो, so आप कहाँ पे सेटल्ड हो. आप 70 डिग्री स्लोप पे सेटल्ड हो क्या, 60 डिग्री स्लोप पे सेटल्ड हो, या आप 20 डिग्री स्लोप पे सेटल्ड हो. So that defines how vulnerable you are and how the soil, how the rock structure is below you. Say okay, आपका घर कंस्ट्रक्टेड है ऐसे इग्नियस रॉक में, हार्ड रॉक में, इसके ऊपर आपका घर है. You will be less vulnerable. But say you have constructed the home, ऊपर से मिट्टी भरा है लेकिन नीचे ना पूरा डेब्री पड़ा है. Means you have rocks of various sizes and which have a lot of gaps. It is highly porous. And on this say you have constructed a Vikas Pro Max. You have constructed a multi-story building over here. Obviously, when the water will be seeping inside, when the water seeps inside, the soil or the sediments will settle in, it will become loose, and your land will become unstable, your building will collapse. Right? So again, it's a combination of two things. Next. So describe, okay, this is 2018 question. Various measures taken in India for disaster risk reduction before and after, okay, signing Sendai framework. Again, see, this is almost repeated question. See, in 2024 also they have asked the same question. Resilience, Sendai framework. Okay, disaster risk reduction. Okay, Sendai framework. Both are almost the same words. And how it is different from the Hyogo framework. So again, this question will come under the laws or the framework or the conventions at the international level. So ज़्यादा कुछ laws and frameworks नहीं है. अब सेंडाई पढ़ लो, ओके, ह्यूगो फ्रेमवर्क पढ़ लो, ओके, जो भी व्हाट कन्वेंशन साइन जापान में साइन होती है वो सब पढ़ लो, बिकॉज द जापान इज द फोरफ्रंट ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. Of course, it's a well-administered country, but also Japan is very much prone to disasters. Every year, so many earthquakes come there. Tsunamis come there. Tsunamis also have come. So that's why it is at the forefront of the disasters. So many countries, okay, take a lot of clues what is happening in Japan. And जब भी कोई conference होना है या framework होना है, okay, with respect to disaster, that happened in Japan. Next, 2017 question. So on December 2004, tsunami brought havoc on 14 countries including India. Discuss the various factors responsible for occurrence of the tsunami and its effects on the economy. So in the intro you can talk about how these 14 countries have been affected. Justify. So justify this part. If you justify this part, it will become the part of your intro. So discuss the factors responsible for the occurrence of tsunami. Again, they're asking causes. So when it comes to the causes, again, don't get into technical details here. That will become your geography. Means don't talk about how two plates are colliding with each other. When one plate will be going subducting inside, how it will create a upward thrust and displacement of the water, and then how that wave will be traveling towards the coast. No need of all these things. That technicality don't discuss. Discuss what are the various causes by which a lot of destruction has occurred. Means causes मतलब यहाँ पे आपको discuss करना है. Say the mangrove forest have been cut in that area, or earlier there was a long beach, but because of the sand mining from the beach, it could not act as a buffer. Or you can talk about how the settlements have increased in the urban areas. Or you can talk about how various artificial structures have been built in the coastal areas. So along with the water, those structures means आपने दीवार था, पहले तो सिर्फ पानी आके आपके ऊपर मारता था जब भी सुनामी आती है. आपने दीवार कंस्ट्रक्ट किया तो पानी भी आया, हाइट भी मार दिया आपके ऊपर. So you can discuss about all these things, or how the people have settled in the low-lying areas along the coastline. So you can discuss about all these things here. Don't get into technical aspects of how tsunami is caused. Okay, geography का hardcore geography knowledge यहाँ पे use मत करना. And obviously, so they are focused on the disasters, causes, and effects. Okay. Obviously, solution भी पूछेगा. The framework. So in the light of guidelines of NDMA, describe the mechanism for the preparedness to reduce the risk during such events. So obviously you talk about these solutions or guidelines. They have asked about NDMA. See, आपने specifically नहीं पढ़ा कि what are the various guidelines of NDMA, etc. So don't worry. If you know something which is in generic, write it. Don't hesitate to write. You might not be getting 100% marks for this part, but again, at least 20, 30%, 40% कुछ भी मिल गया, that is good for you. Okay. So next, get into 2016. See, now 12.5 to 1.5, 25 marks have been asked. See, again, repeat. The frequency of urban floods due to high intensity rainfall is increasing over years. Topic is urban floods. Next, what are the various reasons Highlight the mechanisms for preparedness to reduce the risk. Again, remedies, solution. Solution, disaster, causes, solution. Same framework again. Next question. With reference to national NDMA guidelines, discuss the measures to be adopted to mitigate the impact of recent incidents of cloudburst in many places. Just now we have seen a question on cloudburst again. Again you see the cloudburst here. Now here they simply focused on the measures on cloudburst. But here only the measures have been asked. But आप क्या सोचोगे कि measures पूछा है तो causes नहीं लिखेंगे? Obviously, okay, again follow the same framework. Causes लिखो लेकिन कम लिखो यहाँ पे. So कम कैसे लिखोगे? So you can make a hub and spoke here. Say causes. 3-4 लिख दो. बस इसको box कर दो. Your presentation also look very good here. Then you talk about the measures, means the solution, with specific to NDMA. Okay. So next, the frequency of earthquakes appears to have increased in the Indian subcontinent. However, India's preparedness for mitigating their impact has significant gaps. See, again the same earthquakes has been asked. Question again gets repeated here. So the frequency of earthquakes appears to have increased. Now earthquakes के लिए एक set frequency होती है. Okay, means even if you are standing sitting in your home and listening to the class, there is an earthquake below you, but its intensity is very less. Its magnitude is very less. So on everyday basis you get thousands of earthquakes, but you won't be able to perceive them. But if you want to observe an earthquake or witness an earthquake of Richter scale 8 and above, you have to wait for 100 years. So, earthquake of magnitude 1, you have hundreds per day. Earthquake of magnitude 8 and above, like it's once in a century event. So, that's why UPSC said appears to have increased. Means लग रहा है क्यों? अवेयरनेस बढ़ा है, इक्विपमेंट्स बढ़ा है, अब सीस्मोमीटर्स इंस्टॉल कर रहे हो, कम्युनिकेशन बढ़ा है, अब लोगों को बता रहे हो भाई वहाँ पे काठमांडू में अर्थक्वेक हुआ है, भाई वहाँ पे सीरिया में अर्थक्वेक हुआ है. तो दैट्स व्हाई अपीयर्स टू हैव इंक्रीज. ओके, तो यूपीएससी जब भी स्टेटमेंट देता है बहुत ही सेंसिबल स्टेटमेंट देता है, ऐसा नहीं कि That however, India preparedness for mitigating their impacts has significant gaps. Discuss. Okay. Here again, whenever they have asked a question on earthquakes, they did not ask about the causes of the earthquakes. नहीं पूछा है भाई, वो पूरा technical हो जाएगा, आप उसके बारे में कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते हो. So how India is prepared? So gaps क्या है पूछा है? Means what kind of problems we have with respect to earthquake. So that they have asked. Obviously, after that you should also suggest the remedies. So next question. So this year, the drought has been declared as a disaster. अगर आपने कल का newspaper पढ़ा है, yesterday's Hindu newspaper, if you can see, I don't think you can see this. See, states must actively consider notifying any human-wildlife conflict as a natural disaster. Supreme Court has told. So before this, the drought was not declared as a disaster. But now there is a demand to declare drought as a disaster. Right? So this is the question, okay? In view of spatial duration, slow onset and last effects on the vulnerable sections. So with a focus on September 20 guidelines of NDMA, discuss a mechanism for the preparedness to deal with likely El Nino and La Nina fallouts in India. So this has been very specific. So only if you have read this, you'll be able to answer this. Next 2013 question. Again the same thing is repeating. How important are vulnerability and risk assessment for pre-disaster management? So as an administrator, what are the key areas that you would focus on in a disaster management system? Again, they're talking about vulnerability pre-disaster management. So finally, what is the bottom line? What is the bottom line here? The bottom line is the same thing which we have discussed earlier. Okay, so the bottom line is the questions, the area from where the questions are being asked is, so they ask about a disaster, okay, its causes, solution. Mostly the solutions come from the guidelines or laws. Okay. The second area from where the questions are being asked are these are the laws, domestic or international frameworks. International frameworks. Okay, second area from where the questions are being asked is this. Here you have only few. Okay, any new domestic law. This will be recent. So this will be part of the current affairs. And international, you can just talk about Sendai. Hyogo has become very old. So mostly Sendai. The Sendai has been asked, till now it has been asked 2 times. So until and unless any new law, new framework does not come at the international level, again they will keep asking this only. The third area which they will be focusing is from disaster management cycle. So here the major focus will be on pre-disaster. The majorly focus on resilience or preparedness or mitigation. So this is all. So this is just the introduction, okay, part of your disaster management class. Again tomorrow, okay, I'll be meeting you. So we'll be focusing on these things only. And apart from this, I'll also discuss about the institutional aspect, the Disaster Management Act 2005. So what are the various institutions which have been created, and what can be the remedies there, means what can be the futuristic changes which can be done. And I will also discuss the financial aspect, how financially equipped we are with respect to the disaster in India. The questions haven't been asked, okay, from this area. I will discuss these also. Okay, so see you tomorrow then. Thank you.